of risks. In a lot of real life situations, there is a high certainty that things do not go according to plan. So this alludes to the point that as a project manager, it's very important to have a proactive approach. When things just cannot get any worse, they will. So highlighting a fact that once the downward spiral starts, it could get from bad to worse. So it is very important that appropriate monitoring arrangements are in place. We are periodically monitoring the project progress. Are we doing what we plan to do? And also to introduce control measures when things do not go according to plan, so to bring project back on track. And when things appear to be going better, you have overlooked something. So these are sort of like a tongue-in-cheek laws based on people's experiences on construction sites. But nevertheless, it highlights the reality of managing projects in complex environments. So this, the third point, is very much true because of after the influx of software, it is very easy to put a gloss on things and to manipulate the data and present it in different manner. So things may appear all rosy, but it is maybe possible that underneath you are overlooking something. So just a reminder, in one of the earlier sessions, we went through computer integrated tools, and just a reminder of this. If I go, for instance, to the problem sets document, so this was within the problem sets document, so I will highlight to where you can have an access to this model if you have missed one of my previous sessions. So here in this example, you can download this example from the link which is provided on the problem set document. I will come to it in a second. This is an example of a earned value analysis graph in this space. So it may be a good starting point for students to just preview and getting themselves familiarized on how it may look like. So here you can start getting yourself familiarized with a few terms which are used very commonly in earned value analysis and terminology. So the first one is BCWS, which is in a lot of British academic literature. It is referred to as a planned value. The Americans and I think a lot of government reporting based systems and also various softwares use this term, which is called budgeted cost of work scheduled. So BCWS, or budgeted cost of work scheduled, basically indicates that how much money should have been spent on your various project tasks at various time frames as part of the initial contract. So this is also called planned value. This is how you should be spending the project funds. And ACWP, on the other hand, refers to the actual cost of work performed. So based on the data from the site, how much you are comparing. So comparing yourself against the anchor point, which is BCWS, and actual cost of work performed, you could at any time have an idea about are you going over budget, under budget. And the third line here is BCWP, which is budgeted cost of work performed. It is also referred to as earned value. So do not get bogged down by these terms, but these are quite important terms. So we will be going through it and the need for these in terms of a project reporting. So this model has been made available. Students can download it. They could see a working example of earned value analysis. You could set data. You can switch off different layers. Now, in this particular example, a typical construction project curve is very much like a shape of an S. Here you can see all the three lines, BCWP, BCWS, and ACWP, are basically more or less overlaying each other, which is a example of a project which has gone according to the plan, there has been not a great deal of a variation, which is highly unlikely, but nevertheless, it serves as an exemplar. So you could see, you can explore this model to have a feel of how the project performance reporting system uh, may look like. Some of you are already working on projects. You may be reporting your projects using these parameters. In which case, this session will serve as a useful refresher. Right. So now, before we delve a little bit more deep into the concepts, we will start by having a bit of a background knowledge on earned value analysis reporting systems. What are these? And we will be spending some time to understand how they are being used for project monitoring and control. They are also referred to as a cost schedule control systems. So previously, we have got traditionally reporting systems which were based either on the cost parameters or on the time parameters. So they were the project managers just keeping a track on time. So how is project progressing on the time wise, or their quantity surveyors and accountants keeping a tabs on the cost. So a separate picture on in terms of cost and schedule performance maintained. The beauty of earned value analysis is that it helps to integrate both these aspects. Now, before we delve deep into the concept, we'll start by reviewing a few scenarios. So the first scenario is that there was a housing estate which is being developed, and the total budget for this job is £4 million, and the total time period is 10 months, which gives us a roughly a cost breakdown of £400,000 per month. Now, planned cost for the first 5 months using this 400,000 spent per month would be £2 million. But we have seen that the actual spend after 5 months was reported from the site as 2.4 million. So here in this case, the planned value, or the budgeted cost of work scheduled after a 5 month period, was £2 million, but the actual cost of work performed, or ACWP, if you're using any software tool, has been reported as £2.4 million. So I'm asking you a question. Sorry, I think I okay. So I was looking for some input from your side. So in a case where the plan value was £2 million after the 5th month of the project, and the actual spending was £2.4 million, what would you say about the health of uh, this specific project? Would you be happy uh, in terms of a progress being made, or would you be a little bit skeptical, or you think you cannot make an informed decision? Okay, so Francis, you think the scheme is ahead of time? May not think it has been crashed. Well, the answer is that there is a bit of a question mark here. Where is this extra money being spent? We do not have a complete picture here. So all we have got is a cost data, and the cost is telling us we should have spent 2 million, we have spent 2.4 million. But the big question mark here is, uh, uh, yes, Sarah, as you have highlighted, we do not know if this picture is not showing us a complete picture. We do not know what progress has been made on the construction site. Maybe you have used this extra 4.4 million to crash different activities, and now you are planning to complete this project maybe in 7 months, which would say that for the time being you may be over budget, but you're maybe over budget, under budget, looking at the entire picture portfolio. Uh, or it could be possible that your project is really lagging behind in progress, and it is heading for over budgeting. So the point being made here is just relying on cost spending data is not enough, and that is where a lot of the traditional reporting systems failed, because all they reported was either the time data or the cost data. So we need to know a little bit more information about the progress which is being made uh, for making an informed judgment. So the right answer is that there is not enough information to make informed uh, reporting whether this project is under budget or over budget. So this is another variation of the same problem. So using the same project, if the total spend was £4 million, your planned spend after 5 weeks, five weeks or months or whatever your unit is, £2 million, and you have spent £1.7 million. It could be that this project is under budget, but it could be that you're not making enough progress on your side. So the point being made here is that just relying on cost data for project reporting purpose, or just merely relying on time data for that matter, could lead to an unclear picture. So that's why we need what we call earned value analysis, which basically integrate the cost and schedule within one single report. Right. So we go back to discuss some of the lines which we have been talking about. So the first line we talked about when we were looking at the curve is referred to as a BCWS, or budgeted cost of work scheduled, and in the literature it is also referred to as a planned value line. So the planned value line basically tells us how we should be spending money on our project. So merely relying on planned funds and actual cost spent data may provide false and misleading information, as we saw in our previous example. It is very important to associate the cost spent with physical work that has been accomplished. So we have to see what is the total worth of the work which has been accomplished. For effective project control, you must map time phased cost to project schedule. We will take it step by step. So the first step that we will see is uh, understanding the need for different lines which are used for project reporting. So the first and the topmost here, if you see in terms of project reporting, is referred to as a BCWS, which is referred to as the budget cost of scheduled or planned value. So now we will see what this line is, and how do we go about drawing one. So I will like to take you slightly back into journey. So when we did problem set 1, the last problem in the problem set 1 was okay. So there these documents are editable, and few students are mucking about with these documents. So suggestion here is that you just uh, do not edit it unnecessarily. Okay, so the last problem which we did in problem set 1 was basically cost-based budgeting, or drawing PV or a plan value line, or sometime in the literature it is referred to as a BCWS, or uh, so in this example, we will learn how do we do this. I think some have already done it, so this will serve as a refresher. So for the project shown below, create a time-phased budget and draw a graph showing cumulative baseline budget. This graph is known as a project cost baseline. It's also known as a plan value, and also it is known BCWS if you are using a software, and this term will be used. So plan value is an important tool to determine cost schedule variances as the project is implemented. So here we will learn how to draw the first curve within the earned value reporting systems curves, which is a plan value. So here in this example, the project network diagram has been done for you, so you do not need to worry about doing a forward pass and the backward pass. These calculations have been done for you here. Okay, so let me accept these suggestions. Right, so here you can see on the table at the right hand the cost breakdown. So according to the contract, the funds are released to the contractor according to this formula. So for instance, for activity A, the funds are released £10,000 per on a per week basis. For activity B, on the first week of the project, contractor will receive 8,000, and then in the week 4,000, 8,000, 4,000, 8,000. So based on the work that has been successfully completed. And for activity C, and the cost breakdown is shown, which is 12,000 overall, and for activity D. So essentially what you have to do is you have to draw a bar chart, but this bar chart is going to cost loaded bar chart. So we can see that the first activity which is taking place, starting with the total budget, so we can see the total budget for activity A is 40 grand, basically a summation of the values in the column shown above. The total budget for activity B is 32 grand, activity C, the total budget is 48, and so on and so forth. The activity A is the activity which is taking place at the very beginning of the project, and activity B likewise is an activity which is taking place at the very beginning of the project. So we can plot the bar chart, but this time we will be loading our bar chart with the cost. So for activity A, it's a 4 weeks activity. You can see the duration 4 in the, and the budgetary allocation is 10, 10, 10, 10. And activity B, the total budget is 32, and budgetary allocation is 8, 4, 8, 4, and 8. So essentially we are loading our bar charts with the cost. Activity C, you could see, is a 4 weeks activity, and this activity will start only work after work on activity A has been completed. So this is following activity A. So activity A is finishing in month 4, and afterward we can start work on activity C. Whereas the, so I think students have put a few things here which I need to delete. Okay, so I know you all of you know how to draw a bar chart. So all that is different is that this is a cost-loaded bar chart. So you would be so activity E, for instance, activity D could only start once A and B both have finished, and activity D has a duration of 5 weeks. So we would be starting after both A and B, and for 5 weeks. And let's give it a different color here. And for activity D, for instance, we know the budgetary allocation is 6,000, and then 2,000, followed by 2,000, then 2,000, and 6,000 in the last week. And this is followed by activity E, which depends on completion of activity B, and this has a duration of 3 weeks, and the total budgetary allocation is 8 and 12. Right, so you will complete this bar chart and load it with the costs which are given here, and we have done that. Then you can do a cumulative spend of all the activities. So you can see the total spend for this project in week 1 is 18,000. So basically you do a summation of all the columns at the top. In for week 2 it is 14 grand, week 3 it is 18, and week 4 is 14. And then you would do a cumulative spend of this project. So the cumulative spend by end of week 1 would be 18. By end of week 2 it will be 18, add 14, which will give you a 32. And by end of week 3 it will be 50, and by end of week 4 it will be 64. By end of week 5 it will be 64, add 20, which will give you 84. So basically you will have to plot a graph. Now I cannot plot a graph because I'm working in a doc environment, but if you plot a graph, so using the cumulative spend on the y-axis and time on the x-axis, this graph, so you can use it as a graph paper in these lines, and this graph will be referred to as a PV line or planned value line, or if you're using a software tool it will refer to as a BCWS line. So this way we draw a BCWS line or budget of a work schedule line or plan value line. Right, so that is one thing which we learned in this bit, how to draw a PV line. So now we will have a little bit of a theory of what earned value management is. So earned value management is a systematic approach to the integration and measurement of cost, schedule, and technical scope accomplishments on a project or a task. It provides both the government and contractors the ability to examine detailed schedule information, critical programs, and technical milestones, and the cost data. Earned value management is intended to provide data from a contractor's management system to government in a standard data elements that relate time-based budgets to the contract tasks. It integrates cost, schedule, and technical performance. It helps indicate work progress objectively, valid, timely, and auditable from the internal systems to the contractors' users. So we will learn a little bit more about earned value management systems. So this is a bit of a snapshot from practice from Project Management, a Managerial Approach, a book by Gray and Larson. In this book, one of the very successful businessman and entrepreneur of our time, Bill Gates, has commented on how he would be managing the series and portfolios of projects which he was looking after. So the description reads that when Bill Gates was in charge of Microsoft, project teams sent reports each month to top executives as well as to managers of all related projects. Status reports were brief and had a standard format. Gates read most of them quickly and spotted potential delays or changes he did not want. He especially looked for schedule slippages, cutting too many, so scope creep, and need to change a specification. So there was a very well structured format which was developed to report how different projects are progressing. Gates usually responded to relevant managers or developers directly by electronic email. So his style of management sometimes is defined as very direct. So he would be using some tough words like "kill this project" and using some enforcements whenever the projects are not keeping to the budget. Status reports are an important mechanism for communicating between top management and projects. So here he is explaining his methods. I get the status reports. Right now there might be 100 active projects. The status reports contain the schedule, including milestone dates and any changes in specs and any comments about how we cannot hire enough resources or some technical issues that they were going into. So basically you would look into, so if they do not raise in the status report and then 2 months later they say something that is a breakdown in communication, the internal group is totally copied on those things. So it's a sort of the consensus of the group. So basically ensuring good communications and everyone is in the page when it comes to reporting project progress. Right, so let's see an example of a earned value analysis using very simple example. So the example being given here is that we have signed a very small contract of mowing our back garden. So we make an arrangement with the gardening contractor that based on £100 per day contract, they will clean the back garden, and the estimated time which has been agreed is 1 day. First scenario, we examine the progress of the project. So after half day, we see that the contractor has accomplished 50% of the work. So this is looking like a project which is on budget because 50% work has been accomplished after half a day. So probably after full day, the job will be done. So this will be a project which will be on budget and on schedule. So after half a day, if we have to report the earned value, the formula which we will use is percentage of the work which has been completed by the budget. So basically 50% of the £100 job has been accomplished. So earned value by end of a half day is £50 in this particular example. There could be another scenario where we check the progress of the project after half a day and we see that only 25% of the work has been completed. So okay, so if that is the case, sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this bar at the bottom. I couldn't figure out anyhow. So basically, this is an example of a project which is going to be under budget because after half a day, only 25% of the work. Sorry. So after half a day, only 25% of the work has been completed. So the earned value reported will be £25. So if the rate of progress continues, this job, which was previously scheduled to complete in 1 day, will now take 2 days to complete. So in this particular example, the project will be over budget because your contract was £100 per day. So this project is taking 2 days. So now you have to spend £200 and the project will be late as well. The fourth scenario here is that you check after half a day, 75% of the work has been complete. Now, if that is the rate of progress continues, it's likely we have to pay the contractor lesser than £100 because the work will be completed slightly ahead of schedule. So this is an example of a project which is under budget ahead of schedule. So basically, we are monitoring what is the value which has been earned by the contractor at any given point of time. Right. So this is an example of a earned value analysis graph which is being shown here. So it will be good to do a little bit of practice in terms of reading this graph. So my first question is, what is the total duration of this project, which is shown in this graph? Yes, so you said 45, which is correct. So the total duration is 45. So as you can see, along the x-axis, the scheduled end date is about 45 or 46, so between 40 and 50. Right. So the next question is, what is the reporting date of this project? So at what slice of time are we reporting progress of this project? So this project is currently in progress, and we are reporting, thank you Travis and Nicola, at day 25 of the project. My next question is, what is the total budget of this job? Yes, so thank you, and the correct answer is £400,000. So BAC is budgeted cost at completion. So basically, the line in the middle is a PV line value line, and it is finishing at the day 45, which is indicating the total budget of this job is 400. Now, based on the progress which we have made after in 25 days, what is the revised duration for the completion of this project? 50. And what is the revised budget to complete this job now? So yeah, so approximately 470, 425. So EAC is a term which stands for estimated cost at completion. So we can see that even though we are used to bar charts, but we can see quite a lot of information from an earned value graphs. My next question will be, by end of uh, day 25, how much money we should have spent according to our actual plan? So yes, I think all of you are correct. So we should have spent 300,000, which is the planned value line. So according to the original maybe contract documents or original planning, we should have spent 300,000. But what is the actual cost which we have spent after 25? 340. So you can very much see that we have spend a little bit more than what we uh, have should have spent. Okay, so the next question I would like to ask is, what is the actual worth of the work which we have accomplished on site by day 25? Or what is the earned value achieved by end of day 25? So the earned value answer is 200. So um, So we can see we have picked quite a lot of information from this graph. Now the other thing is, in terms of cost, what is our variance? So how much are we varying from the plan? How much over budget we are? So the formula for the cost variance is indicated by this arrow shown here. So basically you subtract the earned value minus the actual cost, which will give you a cost variance. So um, so Bilal, you said, and Milad, you said 140, which is correct, because mind you, it should be reported as a negative figure because it is over budget. You have spent too much, whereas delivered to that tune. And in terms of a schedule variance, how much behind schedule which we are falling. So the formula for schedule variance we will be learning very soon is earned value minus the planned value. So in terms of a schedule, we are falling behind by 100,000. So minus 100 would be the schedule. So in terms of a time, we have underperformed by work equivalent to 100,000 pounds of work, and in terms of a cost, underperformed by 140. Right, so we will learn maybe in the next class you could do a small Google search, an interesting term called banana curves. So very often these curves take a shape of a banana, and as far as the actual spending is lying within those banana curves, the management my exception rule is applied. So as far as you are within those two extreme curves, that is considered okay. If you start falling outside the boundaries of a banana, that triggers a response from the senior management. But we will cover that. So we learned in this example uh, earned value graphs and how to read those graphs. Now we will do maybe one or two problems to get ourselves a little bit more comfortable. So I go to problem sets document, and we have got problem set 3. Now just before problem set 3 is the section 3.3. So here is a link to the model which I was discussing at start of the lecture. If students want to explore this model, you can download this model, and once you have downloaded it, in the downloaded folder, once you have unzipped it, you will see an .exe file. You can run that executable file. It will prompt you to open the dataset file, which sits within the examples folder. So from within, you will click on the file menu and open, and within the examples folder there is a 5dm file which you will open. It will give you a model exactly shown here. So you can explore it in your free time. So I just wanted to mention it off the cuff. So in our discussion today, we will learn about reporting progress of a project on a relatively small construction project, and on a slightly bigger construction project. So we will take an example of a hospital construction and a small construction project. So the problem set, the first problem reads that your employer would like you to look at the project manager's notes taken on the Saturday, October the 28th, and you have to refer to the calendar below. So the calendar is given here. Let me zoom in maybe slightly for a better look. So situation here is that we have to assume that we are right now on 28th of October, which is the day today, and you are reporting progress of this project on exactly this date. Assume that the project is executed 5 days a week and 8 hours a day with some additional non-working days which are denoted with bold letters and underlined in the calendar. So if you look at the calendar, you will see all the working days are referred to in black. If, for instance, if you look in September, September 4th is marked as a holiday, and likewise October 9th is marked as a non-working day, and in November 10th November and 23rd November are public holidays, whereas is being executed on all other work days. The project manager's tables of activities is shown below. So we can see different activities. So let's review the first activity, which is site preparation. The original duration of this activity was 8 weeks, and the actual duration was 9 weeks. And mind you, this example is using American notation. So actual start date was 27th of February, and actual finish date was 28th of April. And this activity has been completed 100%. Original budget for this activity was £500,000, and actual expenditure as reported on the site was 600,000. So we can see just by reading these figures that we have, first of all, spend a little bit more time on the site preparation activities, 9 weeks compared to 8 weeks allocated, and our spend is also £100,000 over budget. Anyhow, we go and we look at the job which has been assigned to us. So the first task which have been assigned is to forecast the duration of the activities that are currently in progress, assuming the current rate of progress will continue till end of the project. And secondly, find out the remaining duration as per the forecasted duration. And you can refer to project manager's notes along with the calendar provided above. Right, so the first thing is you have been asked to look at the activities which are in progress at the moment. So by the moment means 28th of October, which is the date today. So can you tell us which activities are in progress on 28th of October? Yeah, thanks, Francis. You have highlighted superstructure, so this is correct. Because you can see the first activity, site preparation and substructure. You could check the percentage completed, 100%. So these activities have been completed. So site preparation has been completed and substructure has been completed. You have highlighted superstructure, which is one of the activity which is in progress. Moving down, exterior has yet not started. So we cannot say this is an activity in progress. This will be started a bit later. And Grant, you mentioned interior, which is the other activity in progress. So first of all, let's see. The boss is asking us how long the activities will take to complete. So let's look at the interior, for instance. So first of all, we know that this activity started on 31st of August, and we have taken the time from 31st of August to the reporting date, which is 28th of October, to accomplish 50% of the work. So basically, we can use an extrapolation that if work continues, we would take the same amount of time to finish this work. So let's go to the calendar and check the calendar. On 31st of August, this activity started. So how many weeks have elapsed from this start date to the reporting date? So if we look, 31st of August was a Thursday. So the first week of this activity will be 7th of September. 7 would be the first week, 14th September will be the second week, 21st September will be the third, 28th September will be the fourth week, 5th, 12th, 19th, and 26th October, 26th October will be the eighth week approximately. So we have got 8 week and 1 day, but mind you, 9th of October was a holiday, and likewise 4th of September. So for the sake of simplicity, we can assume that around 8 weeks, we have taken 8 weeks to deliver 50% of the work. So the answer would be another 8 weeks. So thank you, Sarah, for highlighting this. So basically, we were asked that the question that remaining duration as per the forecasted duration. So we will say that this activity is going to take further 8 weeks to complete. If we look at the other activity, which was superstructure, and this activity has been completed 75%. Let's see how many weeks we have taken to deliver 75% of the work. So starting from 20th of July, we could see 27th of July will be the first week on this activity, and we have got 5 Thursdays in August, so that's 6 weeks, and we have got 4 Thursdays in September, bringing it to 10 weeks, and in October we have got 4 Thursdays as well, so bringing to 9, 10, 14 weeks. So we have taken 14 weeks to deliver 75% of the work. So how long will it take to deliver the full job? Yes, so basically it's simple arithmetic calculation. So almost maybe additional 3 weeks to complete the remaining job. So we can inform the managers based on these notes. So I think it may work something like 14 by 18 and times the total duration. So based on, as we have taken 14 weeks to complete, so we can extrapolate. Moving to the question 2, calculate the plan value, which is also called the budgeted cost of work schedule, which we saw in the last problem within the problem set 1, how to draw one. So you are being asked how much money we should have spent based on the original budget, original duration, and the number of weeks between the planned early start and the status state of activities that are in progress. So so here I think students were doing this, and they have added a few things. So if we look into the first activity, which was a superstructure, the total budget for this activity was £2 million, and the total duration of this activity was 18 weeks. And so far we are in the 14th week of this project. So basically we will be doing 14 divided by 18 multiplied by 2 million, which will give us, I don't think so the answer would be 1, probably somewhere close to 1.5 million pound. So we should have spent around this much amount of money on this job. Okay, the next question is how much money we should have spent on interior works at this stage of time. So you can see the for the interior works, it should have started on 31st of August. So the total duration of this activity, interior works, is 14 weeks. So you have to check how many weeks have elapsed on this project, and this will give us an idea about how much money we should have. So if the activity started on 31st of August, we are 8 weeks through this activity. So it will be 8 divided by 14 multiplied by 1.8 million pounds. So if anyone wants to use their calculators or smartphones to come up with, so basically it was we are right now in 8 weeks, and the total duration was 14 weeks multiplied by the total budget of this project, which should give us an indication of how much money we should have spent on this activity by this week. So one suggestion is the answer could be around 0.9 million. Right. The third question here is, what is the earned value, which is also called the budgeted cost of work performed, based on the original budget and the actual work completed for the activities that are in progress. So the formula used to calculate earned value is percentage of the work completed multiplied by the original budget. So if I ask what is the earned value for the interior activity, it's a bit simpler. Okay, thanks you, Liz. Yeah, so the earned value is basically 0.9 million or 900,000 pounds. And likewise, to determine the earned value for superstructure, you will have to do 75% of 2 million pound, which will give you the earned value for this activity. And based on this, you are asked to tell us the schedule performance index and the cost performance index based on the budgeted cost of work scheduled and budgeted cost of work performed. So the formulas which we use for SPI is EV by PV. So mind you, you do not need to remember these formulas. If you are using any software tool, they do the reporting themselves, provided you provide them with the actual spend and the planned spend. So the rule of thumb while using SPI and CPI is that if your SPI is basically a ratio, and if it is 1 or greater than 1, it is a good news for your project. If it's you get an SPI of 1.1, for instance, that means that you are ahead of schedule. Or if it's 1, that means you are on schedule. Figure lower than 1 means you are falling behind schedule, and a thing which is really low, so something like a 0.6, 0.7, means you are really falling behind schedule. So the further the distance from 1, in a negative direction, it's a bad news, and a value greater than 1 is good news. So you will calculate the CPI. So Milad, I think you have calculated a 0.9 SPI, which is not too much off track, but still you can introduce a few corrective measures to bring the project back on track. So in this example, we learn some basic concepts. How do we forecast the remaining duration of the project? How do we calculate BCWS or BC or earn method, it helps to compare value of work done with the value of work that should have been done. It helps to keep track of time. It helps you monitor how your project is currently performing against time and cost targets. Students may consider revising the last question in the problem set 1, which we have already done, in which we learn how to draw a budgeted cost of work schedule line or PV line. Right. So after the session, if you want, you can do a little bit of a Google search around some of these terminologies, and you will see plenty of information around those concepts. So earned value reporting is a concept which is used in large projects, but some managers prefer to use it with small projects as well. Once you get familiar with key concepts, it can be a useful tool in helping you complete project in time and within budget. So here in this problem, we are considering a construction project with following activities and initial budget. So the first activity on this project was work package 1, which should have started in the first month and which should have ended by the first month as well of this project, and the total BAC or budgeted cost at completion in thousands of pounds is £100,000. Activity 2 should have started in second month and should have ended by third month, and total budgetary allocation is 400,000. The work package 3 should have started in second month, it should have ended by fourth month, and the budgetary allocation was £1,200, and so on and so forth. So you can see the total budget for this project was £2,500,000. Now, in this problem, we are reporting progress of the project in the fourth. So we are assuming reporting on the fourth month of this project, and your line department has reported the following progress at end of month 4. So you have been informed that by end of month 4 in this project, your activity 1 has been completed 100%, and the actual cost of the work performed was 100,000. If we compare it with what was planned, and this was the original plan, it should have been started in first month, it should have ended in first month, and it's reported 100. So this looks like an activity on track. This has gone according to the plan. If we look at the review of the project activity 2, after fourth month, it is being reported that this activity has been completed 100%, but we have actually spent 500,000. Now, if we go back to what was planned, this is correct in terms of time. We have done well because it should have been completed by fourth month, but the total budgetary allocation was 400,000, and the department is telling us we have spent 500. So something to keep an eye on. The activity 3 is being reported as 75% complete. This total spend on this activity as 1100. If we go back to the problem, activity 3 should have been completed by fourth month, 100%, and total cost should have been 1200. So it looks like we have eaten a lot of our budget. So out of 1200, 1100 has been consumed, and so far only 75% of the work has been delivered. So something to keep. So we can compare the baseline, which is here, with the actual progress data which has been provided here. And based on this, we have to complete the table, and the detailed description has been provided. So what you have to do in each of the tasks. First of all, before we start our calculations, we have to know what is the PV line or budgeted cost of work schedule. So how much money we should have spent on each of the activity by end of month 4. So let us first of all calculate what is the budgeted cost of work scheduled. So if you have got the printouts with you, you could see that the activity 1 was scheduled to start in first, finish in first month. We should have spent £100 according to the original plan. The activity 2 has a total budgetary allocation of 400,000. It should have started in second month, must have been finished by 3. So approximately, assuming it's an equal breakdown of budget, it's about £200,000 per month should have been spent. Activity 3, according to the original plan, should have started in second month and should have been finished by fourth month. And the total budgetary allocation split equally in 3 months was 400,000 each. So in 1, 2, 3, and 4, activity 4, 3, 3, and activity 5 would be started in 6th month and finished by 6th month, and budgetary allocation will be 200. Now in this problem, we are reporting progress of the project on 4th month. So this is the point of time which is of interest to us. So after 4th month, how much money we should have spent on each of the activities. So if I ask you a question, after 4th month, how much money we should have spent on activity 1? So this is an obvious question. We should have spent 100,000 on activity 1. After 4th month, how much money we should have spent on activity 2? So we should have spent 400 on activity 2. After the 4th month, what is the budgeted cost of work scheduled for activity 3? 1200, which is correct. After 4th month, what is the BCWS or plan value for activity 4? 3. So yes, so for activity 3 it was £1,200, and for activity 4 it will be £300. And what is the plan value or BCWS for activity 5 after the 4th month into the project? It should have been 0. So this basically gives us BCWS. We need this data to complete our table, which will come. So you just keep in mind that the BCWS for the first activity was 100, for the second activity was 400, for third activity was 1200, for fourth activity was 300. Now there is, I think, I would say I should not have used BCS over here. So this is basically a cumulative spend on all of the activities. Right, so now we will start completing the table. So the first column in the table is budgetary allocation. So how much money we should have spent on each of the activities. So for activity 1, all that we have to do is we have to check the budget. What was the so if we just go back to our problem, we have been given budgeted cost at completion for different activities as part of this problem. So we have been told that total budget for activity 1 was 100, 200, 400, activity 3 was 1200, activity 4 was 600 and 1200. So basically we use this information to complete our table. So this is something which has been given as a part of the problem. So total budget for this job is £2,500,000. The second thing is, what is BCWS, and which we just did. So we calculated that by end of 4th month, we should have spent 100,000 on activity 1, 400 on activity 2, 1200 on activity 3, so on and so forth. The third column here is percentage complete. And again, if you go back to the problem, you have been given this information that after 4th month, it has been reported that activity A has been completed 100%, activity 2 has been completed 100%, activity 3 has been completed 75% and 20%. So your line department has provided you with this information. So you can use this to identify what has been the percentage complete. The fourth is a budgeted cost of work performed. So based on this, what is the earned value or the budgeted cost of work performed? So the formula which we will use is percentage complete, so which is a percentage multiplied by budgeted cost at completion. So activity 1 by end of month 4, 100% of 100,000. So we have achieved 100% of 100,000 pound of work. So that means the budgeted cost of work performed or earned value is 100. For activity 2, again, we have accomplished 100% of a total 400,000 pounds job, which again means that we have accomplished a value of 400, which is our budgeted cost of work performed. For activity 3, you could see we have just accomplished 70% of a total 1,200,000 pounds of a job. So 75% of 1,200 is 900, which is our earned value or budgeted cost of work performed after month 4. And activity 4, you could see we have just accomplished 25% of 600,000 pounds of work, which indicates an earned value of 150,000. And activity 5 is essentially 0 because the work has actually not started. So this way we complete budgeted cost of work performed, or if you are using a software tool, your software will be doing these calculations for you once you have provided them with the actual cost spend data and the percentage complete data. So the next column is actual cost of work performed, and this is information which is provided to you by the site staff. So site staff has provided that the actual cost which they have spent on completing the work is given. So you have to basically copy this data from the given problem set. So actual cost was 100, 500. So just by the look of it, you can see activity 2 we have spent more, activity 3 we have spent lesser, but we have also accomplished much lesser, and activity 4 we have spent 200 of total budget of 600, but we have just accomplished 25% of the work. So you could see next would be to the schedule variance. So the formulas to calculate the schedule variance is given also as part of the problem set. So you can calculate the schedule variance. So basically using this formula, it will indicate that after 4 months, you're not falling behind schedule on activity 1 and 2. You should have completed which you have already done. So you're on time in terms of the schedule. But on activity 3, you are falling behind schedule in terms of 300,000 pounds of work. You're falling behind schedule, and in terms of activity 4, you're falling behind schedule with minus 150,000. So very often we represent schedule variance as a percentage using the formula, which is SV divided by BCWS. So the problem which is given provide you with detailed formulas which have to be applied. So representing as a percentage, 0 is positive, minus 25% indicate that we are falling behind schedule 20%, and activity 4 almost by 50%. And likewise, we will calculate the cost variance and the cost variance percentage. And the last thing which you will have to do, so you can use this in your free time to complete this table, will be the estimated cost at completion. So using this formula, which is actual cost of work performed divided by percentage complete, you will estimate the cost at completion, which is given here. Now, one thing which you have to remember that the earned value formulas will not be applied to activities such as activities 5, which have yet not started. These formulas only apply to activities which have been completed or either in progress. Those activities which have yet not started, so for instance, activity 5, this is scheduled to start after week 5, which is after the reporting period. So we will not be applying the formulas, and we will be just saying that the actual budget of this activity was 200, and that is our estimated cost at completion as well. So we can see that using these calculations, we have estimated that this project, which was originally supposed to spend £500, based on the progress of the work which has been reported after the 4th month, is likely to be costing us £1,067. So this is going to be £567,000 over budget. So so in this example, we'll learn how to do various earned value analysis calculations. Right, so here was a bit of a introduction to a relatively dry subject. I'm sure all these terminologies are quite a lot to digest. So budgeted cost allocation, but that's the case with all financial reporting tools, and they are quite intensive in terms of the terminology used. So I think we had some basic introduction to earned value analysis. You can do a little bit background reading on this subject area to reinforce the concepts which we have covered, but we have to come back to this topic in one of more sessions to slightly look into various variations and different reporting tools. Right, so this brings me to closure of the problem set discussion. Now, I would like to spend the remaining period of time to discuss the group work and the progress which is being made on the group work. Now, in terms of the problem sets, I am asking students not to spend too much time to create very neat printed drafts. All that is required is an evidence that you have completed the problems. So if you are in the session and you're taking notes, just you can take a snapshot of that, an image of it, embed it. You could consider making maybe a copy of this file and just embed it, or just a scan of it. So all that is required is an evidence. So do not spend your precious time just producing a very neat version. If you want to do it for your own clarity, you're more than welcome. But if you have a choice to make, more effort should be spent in and the research based tasks which are required in the group assessments. So suggestion here is just attend the class, makes notes, and then provide this evidence as a scanned document. So just a refresher and a reminder that within the problem sets, certain problems are captioned as C, and these are the problems which are compulsory, and those problems which have been captioned O, you are not required to provide an evidence. So these are optional problems. So within a problem set, all that is required for the completion of so you get 4 marks per problem set. So only you're required to provide an evidence of these problems which have been captioned with C or compulsory. All right, so let's move now to the assessment brief. So I have set up this assessment response document, which again you can access by clicking here. So first of all, uh, we have formed different groups, and I'm just browsing through the groups. I think in group uh, E is full-timers, and group F is a full-timers students as well, and in group G is uh, the first group made of distance learners. So we have got four students, Anthony, Grant, Nicola, and Travis, and it's good that you have had some sort of a matrix formed. Now, as part of the exercise today, first of all, I wanted to uh, clarify for those students who have yet not formed the groups. I will discuss with them their group formation. But other than that, we spent some time in the with the full timers to do a small exercise, which I will also prompt you to do. So in this exercise, we focus more on the task D of the group work. Uh, so the task D requires some clarity on what is the project aim. So what as a group you are trying to focus on. So project aim usually is a sort of like a vision statement. So this is usually something which is aspiring and which is setting the vision for the group, and then this is followed by some objectives, which, if possible, need to be SMART objectives. So you, what are the key steps that your group is going to take to achieve your aim? So if groups can gradually start developing some sort of a consensus about your aim and objectives early on, that could help focus their energies. Now, having said that, sometimes group members do revisit their aim and objectives to at the later end of their work. So once you have developed your complete idea, you may revisit, because very often aim and objectives are used as an anchor point to see how your project an anchor point for monitoring. So if you say something that you within your objectives and you're not so this is used as a sort of a benchmark statement. So this would be used. So I will be providing you with this template as well. You do not need to use this template, but the suggestion is that you could start thinking about different tasks. So basically, this task is based around things which are required in task D. Now, in terms of objectives, just a reminder, it will be useful to set SMART objectives, which is statements which are specific, measurable, attainable. So rather than just simple statements, which are very difficult to assess, it will be good that you can go through different iterations to make SMART objectives. So that was one thing which was required to have some clarity on what are aim and objectives. Secondly, what are the outputs which will be produced as a result of your project? Are you so maybe some tangible outputs which will come through your work? So for instance, we take example of this group, which was looking into the use of virtual reality to train unskilled workers in structured steel erections. So they want to improve the training of workers be involved in heavy construction projects. So do reflect on what would be the key outputs which would emerge. You may start by establishing a baseline. You may start by doing some industry consultation or some Gamba walking to see what are the problems. You could go and do some site observations to see for yourself what are the key issues being faced by the structural steel erection workers, and you can interview a few people to highlight what are the key skills, challenges, and an output of that could be an industry report where you or it could be a or anything. Then you could possibly develop some sort of a system to help better train the workers. So maybe you could have maybe some software based output. You could possibly do a few trials, few pilots in the industry. You could perhaps validate what you have developed with industry partners, maybe in a workshop or in a focus groups. You could produce maybe some sort of a like an industry roadmap. So to think about what will be the outputs which will be produced, which will be of interest to the industry and to the economy. So here there are certain suggestions. Okay, will your project lead to some sort of a prototypes? Will it lead to some sort of a new innovation? Are you talking about developing new materials? Do you see any patent on the horizon? Will it lead to some sort of a training manuals which will be developed? Perhaps those manuals could be open source and they could possibly be used to improve the training within the industry. Or are you planning to commercialize your outputs? Or so do you reflect on what are the key outputs which will emerge from your work? The other aspect which Task D requires is to reflect on what is the significance of your project, why this project is so important. So, for instance, in this case, we can highlight that there is a big skills gap, or there are safety issues because of a lack of skills, and why this is a timely, why the work need to be done on this project right at this time frame. What? So maybe you could highlight maybe some reports coming from the government or some environmental concerns which are driving the need for your project. So you have to make a case that the work you're going to do is a really as important piece of work, and it is very time and need of the time. So like any business case, you have to tell the world that the project which you are doing is not run of the mill, and but it is very significant and very timely, so that you could pitch your project. The other thing on the right side is things like what is project contribution to society and economy. So slightly having a broader overview of your work. What is the importance of your proposal idea in a grand scheme of things? How, for instance, it could help improve the industry, or how it will help bring benefits. So, for instance, you can highlight that the work which you are going to do will help in improvements in the housing sector, and this has the ultimate impact of improving the overall well-being of the people and the economy. So just try to make some put your project in a grand scheme of things, and where does it fit into it. And the last aspect which students were encouraged to think within Task D is, what are the measures of sustainability and knowledge transfer? So here the context is that you are preparing this project bid idea. You're asking for some money, which could be at the most £500,000. It could be slightly lesser than that. It is based entirely on the needs of your project. Okay, so you take some money from a public sector organization to implement a project. But what would happen afterwards? Will you go off tangents and the project will disappear? Or you have got some sort of a plan in place where you would ensure that the good work which you have done within the 18 months of this project continues afterwards. So maybe your work could lead to some sort of a commercial venture, or it could lead to some sort of a training material development which will continue. So what will be the legacy of this project, and how this project will ensure knowledge transfer does happen? So I think the groups can think of the task D to reflect on. I will make the template of this available. You can perhaps use it to converge your thinking. You could take it to a point, this template, and overlay it with information, or if you are more of a visual person, so all that would be required as you go into the relevant section. So look into which group you are involved. So let's assume you are a member of group G. So you go into the group G, and you could start by looking into the task D, and maybe you put some initial thoughts and ideas on the point of the bullet list, which will help you converge your thoughts. Right. So this was the exercise which I wanted students to start doing. I will be making the template of this exercise which we did. It's not compulsory that you use the same template, but the whole idea was that you do think about these sort of questions which have been asked for you in task D, which includes things like what are your aim and objectives, what is the expected outputs and deliverables which is likely to emerge, what is the significance and timeliness, what is the contribution to society economy, and how would you ensure project sustainability. So some sort of an agreement between the group members on the key tasks. That is one thing. Okay, so and lastly, I've noticed so a couple of things. So we have got groups till group K formed. Group L has got two very business full-timers. So Albin and J Surya, these are both full-timers, and they were looking for some additional team members. And I understand Francis has not joined any group. So there is one suggestion that you could possibly join the group L here. So I'm happy to put you in contact with the two students. So this is a suggestion, but this document is editable. So in the initial days, we have got a few changes going around, few group members changing their teams and things of that sort. So if you have got a reason, you can just inform me. Now, I do not accept a reason. So a few students came to me and they said that, well, our teams are not taking our ideas forward. Well, basically, you have got 4 team members, and maybe 4 of you may have a slightly different interests. It may be possible that you can converge all of your expertise into one single project. So if someone has got an expertise in technology, they could take a lead more on the technology side of things. If someone else is experienced more in the soft side of project management, they could maybe look into procurement and other issues. So as it's a large project, there may be a scope to bring in everyone's expertise. But having said that, then that, well, I am interested just in this specific technology and my group is not taking that technology onward, so I'm decided to ditch. This is not a valid reason for ditching your group. Okay, so okay, so that's good. So Francis, it appears you are okay with that group. So this group L is still in early stages, and it may be possible to maybe exchange a bit of idea. You could possibly consider going to group L. You could, I think your email address is already there, so I will try to get all of you contacts. Amir, you have said you are also have not any group, so in that case, I will also make you a member of group L. And Marcus, I'm not sure about your query, but the group work is essential. So you will not be able to submit the assessment report just on your own, and there is you have to be a member of a group to submit and basically to pass this module. So individual submissions are not accepted. I think this has been spelled out in the course of pre. Okay, so now it is up to the group members. Maybe initial few weeks could be a little bit demanding, so that you could have an agreement on project parameters. But once you have had the agreement, then you can allocate the responsibilities. So someone who is responsible for horizon scanning, they could begin their literature review. You can start documenting their progress. Those who are doing rationale, they could be busy writing in their rationale. So okay, so once you have had some team dynamics range, so I think then it may be a little bit streamlined. So Francis, I will be making this available. Basically, I think we will just be requiring one submission per group. So there will be, I guess there will be no requirement, but I have to do a little bit of a consultation internally with the Blackboard team to see what would be the best way to ensure group submission. I will be advising you, but just a reminder, as part of this submission, there was an expectation that the groups will be making a presentation on 29th of April. So Paul, I'm not sure if you have joined any group or so. We are trying to get to an ideal number of 4 group members. So just to make sure it's the work is fair and balanced. Now, groups with just 1 member or 2 members, I think one is not acceptable. So. Uh, uh, so let me see, Paul, if you're in which group you are, and it appears Paul, you're not a member of any of the groups so far. Okay, and do you know if Arun, which group Arun is in? Okay, so right, so I think where we stand right now, uh, we have got only 3 members, first group members, so I think they have got a vacancy, and this group is looking. So they had a discussion this morning, and they are looking into their key focal area is improving the bicycling infrastructure. So how to make and better provide infrastructure for cyclists, and how to improve upon it. So that appears to be the key focal area of Group A. The Group B is focusing on improving safety and reduction in communication errors by incorporating virtual reality in construction. So they are looking into um, the application of virtual reality for construction communications. The Group D is looking at enhancement of the building life cycle through better sharing of information and knowledge exchange. And moving on to Group D, about their focus. Group E is looking into creating awareness of environmental impact of construction and helping reduce the impact. So they are looking at use of different innovative materials to improve brick construction and use of innovative technologies. So you can see the outputs which students have done, and they there is another group which is looking at the use of smart helmets with infrared sensors and applications to improve site coordination. So reminding you, we have highlighted that the ideas which groups discuss, there has to be a clear element of novelty and innovation. Okay, so I think this could be used. So you could scan through the exercise, so you will see the and possibly you could use this, which is available through this group work document as a starting point. Now I have got a few email queries from one of the group, so I will try to open the email and will use some of the remaining period to respond to the questions which were raised in that email query. So Marcus, so essentially we are in this course working in an open environment. So typical course where every student works on their own. So it's up to the groups how they manage. You could possibly use this template to help refine, but so it keeps me and gives me opportunity to go through the progress of the work and maybe comment as you progress along. So I'm encouraging students to possibly use the same document. So for instance, if you are a member of group G, you could start by writing who is the leader for task A. So what's the name of the leader, and then they could start documenting their initial thoughts and refine and improve as they go along. This will also provide an opportunity to the other group members to provide their comments. But please do not mess about with the document. And if you are not a member of group G, please do not touch anything within that section. Just go to the section which is relevant to you and provide an input within this document. Okay, so Amir, I'm keeping all the documents through this link. So all that you guys need to remember is this URL, which is tinyurl.com ppmbe 2019. So if you could bookmark this document, and on top of this document, you will see a link to problem sets, the lecture slide, then the assessment brief, and the assessment response. So we are just now referring to the assessment response document. So we could just make sure that we are using and accessing the documents from here. Right. So if there are any questions, you can use your mic or window to respond, ask now. But I will like to open my email and go through questions asked by one of the group member. Okay, so with group J, so there was a few questions asked. So the question asked was, what project nature do we have to choose? And does it need to be a specific project scheduled for 18 months with a £500,000 budget? So firstly, you have to okay, just wait for 1 minute. Paul, I suggest, given we have got 4 members in all of the groups. So we have got group K, which has got 4 members, and group L has got 4 members now. It appears group A is the only group which has got 3 members at the moment. And this group has made some progress. They are looking into improving cycling infrastructure and to make it robust. So if you want, I can link you with the group A, and you could join this group. Okay, so let me have your thoughts on this. Right, Paul. So one suggestion is that you join group A, which is looking at, so you would have some initial thoughts of the groups here. You can see some of the outputs which has been produced by group A, so you could join them as a distance learner student. All 3 other are full-timers. If you have got any other thoughts, you can let me know through email. So I'm coming to one of the queries. This question was, what project nature do we have to choose? So all that is required is the project has to be innovative, and it has to address some of the grand challenges which have been mentioned in the coursework assessment brief. For instance, it has to help construction improve its productivity or reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. So it is up to you what specific project you would choose. Suggestion is that it has to be an 18 months project with a maximum budget of £500,000. It's not necessary that you fulfill. So if you think your project is ideally achieved in 12 months and a budget of £120,000 rather than £500,000, you make suggest a project with a 12-month schedule. And so the given parameters are the maximum time frames allowed and maximum budget, but you can always have a less than that, and essentially it will make your bid more competitive if you could. So the other question was, do we describe how technological innovation like robotics or artificial intelligence and big data could affect the construction industry by giving examples to a more specific project? Well, essentially what is required is not just a literature review, but you have to come up with a suggestion. So for instance, if you are planning to explore robotics, so come up with some sort of a use case and a practical project idea. So for instance, you could say that we want to see how we could make a road construction more safer. So we would be studying the road construction projects, and maybe working with some companies will implement some small scale robots to implement. So it's not just merely literature review. There's some money which is being asked for, so there is an expectation that your project will deliver something. There will be some practical benefits which will come out of it. So just doing simply a literature review is not good enough. You have to think about, okay, we're asking for this money, how effectively can we use this money? Maybe you could hire a expert, because you have got enough money. You can use maybe 40,000 or 50,000 pounds to hire an expert who will perhaps help you in data collection and maybe in systems implementation. So part of your budget could go towards hiring human resources necessary to deliver the work. So you have said that some of the ideas which are you're thinking is how the use of robotics and artificial intelligence, maybe including big data, predictive analytics, could help improve slab link process in an infrastructure project. So I think that's absolutely fine. Just yeah, be realistic. So do not try to solve all of the problems. Um, but if it's a good that you have taken a specific use case and you're looking into slab laying as a focal process. So this is absolutely fine. So it is up to the groups to decide basically the parameter assessment. You have asked cost and time constraints clarification. If we work around the given budget, how do we present each task, present cost for each milestone? So you could perhaps break your big project into small work packages. You could create some sort of a work breakdown structure, and maybe you have got different elements. So for instance, you are making an effort in data collection, where you can have a cost element associated with that work package. Then you could have a work package linked with the system development and implementation, where you could spend part of your money. You could do some small scale pilot projects or demonstrators. You could do some industry dissemination activities. So you could maybe consider breaking your overall project into small manageable work packages, and then you can associate the cost with each work packages. So in terms of a presentation, again, it is up to the group, but it will be very good if each group member could present their task. So rather than one person taking the lead on presentation, it will be much better if each group members could present the tasks they were leading on. Okay, so I hope it addresses okay, so that is good. So Paul, your group mate Aaron, is you're suggesting easy to the two of it. I could not see where is Aaron sitting here, so I could assign you with the right group. So I think perhaps it will be useful. So it appears that Aaron also has not joined any of the groups so far. So if that is the case, if two of you want to form a okay, so I think in that case, what I would suggest is you will see that we have got groups till group, I think group I has been formed. So group J is also formed, and group L. Okay, so I will replicate and make a group after group L. So we can call it a group. And if two of you want to form a group, that's fine. And in that case, you will the two of you will have to work together to come up with a response. So it's just a team of two. Okay, so I will add another section for your group. So I will add your name and our name to it. So yeah, best wishes with your work. So I hope we will get there. We still have time till 10th of May to finalize our proposals. Okay, and so what I would suggest the group members would be to use this template, which is available here. to start putting together some initial thoughts and try to develop some sort of consensus, and try, if possible, to populate your task D, if possible, by next session, or we will see. Okay, so that's about 8 o'clock. Thank you very much for your attention, and I think you guys have got my phone number and my contact details, so if any issue, just give me a shout. Okay, thank you, and speak to you next week.